Go ahead.
Hey everyone, it's Millie.
It's Gabby.
And welcome back to another week of Change by Degrees.
Sorry, I'm chewing on something.
I was going to say, it smells so strong of
I'm so sorry.
What's the taste of that throat lozenge?
It's lemon or something?
Dude, it smells like pure menthol in here.
That's because
I
the
might
inside
pass
liquid
out.
is like
okay,
that.
stop talking. Tim hates that.
Though,
I told
because
you.
it's the cough drops that have
So that melted
middle.
because literally exploded in this like space right now. I can
'Cause
smell
I'm almost
menthol.
done with
My
them.
eyes are watering.
Yeah.
Wow, I can't even focus. Stop it. But we
cleared
are
your
gonna,
sinuses a little bit.
dude. I'm like getting a refresh, dude.
You're getting like
'Cause you've
secondhand
been-
smoking,
I
except
love
it's
how
like
she's dragged me multiple occasions on this podcast about me and my asthma,
yes.
which is not even a problem.
It
I
is.
don't have asthma.
It's a problem.
Actually, I don't even.
Yes, you do have asthma.
But you now are just wheezing for no reason.
It's because you
It
just
wakes
told me
you
what.
up.
I like how you do this. Okay, so off camera and off mic, she said you're wheezing because the air's just really, really dry this year, and probably
But
like
no, I
the
think you
heat in
got
your
asthma.
apartment. Let me talk. And now on
What
mic,
just
she's
happened?
like, "There's no reason why you're wheezing." I'm like, "You literally just told me why. Probably because X, Y, and Z." And then we get in front of people, and you're like, "I don't know. She's just stupid. Her body's dumb. I don't know why she's wheezing."
No. But honestly, I've never had wheezing wake me up. It's kept me from falling asleep because I can't breathe. But
Isn't that worse?
But waking, yeah, it is worse. But you still have a problem. I
think it's just because the air is really dry.
You need to use my inhaler.
Yeah, give me that. Let me hit it. Let me hit it.
Yeah, between the menthol and then, dude, that
It's just
combo,
like I think it's just the air is just
I swear if
so
you had a
dry. Like I've
lozenge-
just been like struggling to like
is that what it is? No,
yeah. What else could it be?
you just got problems, kind of like with your blood. We also discussed that last season. So I love how it's okay. I think she has more problems than me. Is what's
I
happening.
really
But it's okay.
don't.
I
My
support
problems
you.
are very niche. I will say yours are like I have asthma because I had a cat and the cat literally killed me. But you know
But you got weird.
things you'll do for love of your.
You sound like
cat.
my mother.
Oh,
Please
okay.
stop.
Sorry.
Rip her soul. But
Okay, rest in peace, her soul, not rip her soul. It's so weird to say it like that.
and okay, yeah.
I
I think
don't know
you
what
should
we're talking
have
about
nuts. Okay, the throat lozenge and then an inhaler. I feel like you might die.
I think I just want an inhaler because I want an inhaler to just be like
Stupid Puff Daddy.
to just get one in case I want that extra high of air.
I don't think you
flow.
need any extra high. You can barely wake up in the morning without dying. So whether it's coughing,
I'm not wheezing
you're
now, so I
scared
just
of
took a deep
COVID, you might start wheezing at any point. Anyway, we have episode 90.
That was a good intro.
Episode 90.
Okay, get it.
A Netflix doc,
Oh my
Amanda
God.
Knox.
A colon. Okay,
Or should be hyphenated.
no colon.
Dash colon Amanda Knox. So we're going right into the true crime portions of this podcast because we want to. I don't.
There's no other
We
reason.
watched this along with The Witcher,
Which
and we're just going to discuss our theories. It's pretty easy because it's not like a whole series. Because last season we did the Gardner art heist, and that
like
was like a
4
commitment.
episodes?
4 episodes.
she said
Could've
it was
been
a
3.
commitment.
It was a
There's
commitment on
4
our part.
episodes.
We still have to pick a series to watch together to then talk about it.
I thought we
There's
did.
not a whole lot.
The Amazon one.
Oh,
The
yes,
Wheel of
yes,
Time or
Wheels
something.
of Time. Yeah,
Wheels
yeah.
of Time. I think it's
It's
Wheel
one.
of Time.
It's one season. We wanted to get us. We're still waiting for Stranger Things, but it hasn't.
Is that the one with Rosamund Pike?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I've heard people talk about it, and it's something that we wouldn't typically watch. Anyway, this is not that episode. This episode is about Amanda Knox, and it's just a movie, a documentary. I don't know how long it was.
It's like an hour and a half.
Yeah, so it's kind of different, and I didn't know anything about this. And right off the intro, I got lost, and I had to ask Gabby like 5 questions.
Yeah,
but then I caught
like-
on. Then I caught on. The intro, well, she was already complaining that the intro was boring and long, and we were barely 2 minutes in.
Really?
So she's annoyed.
I don't
Yeah,
remember that.
You were like, "Oh my gosh, this intro's so long.
We watched
Can we
this
just get
like
to
2
it?"
weeks ago, something like that. Obviously, my short-term
It's just she'd be
memory is-
watching, and then what do you call when the different shows are like circling through when you haven't clicked anything on Netflix?
Oh, yeah,
It
like
was
the
all these
screensaver?
yeah. It was all these true crime shows.
No.
that she'd already watched.
You know what's
so I'm
so
like,
funny about that?
Huh, interesting.
You know what's so funny about that? Candace texted me, and she was like, we were in the middle of a conversation, and then she texted me like, you know what's so weird? And I was like, what? And she was like, my screensaver on Netflix is all true crime shows. And I was like, dude, same. And she was like,
But that makes sense for both.
no, it doesn't, because she watches a lot of cartoons and stuff like that. She was like,
maybe it
that's
was-
really strange. Like, She's like, I've only watched a few true crime things on Netflix.
My screensaver has never been that. It's been
she
like a
was like-
random, like whatever's top in Netflix.
Exactly.
right
That's
now.
what it usually is.
Yeah,
And
but
that's
y'all
what
are-
Candace
y'all
said.
are-
Candace was like, it's usually just like whatever shows. Like they're just kind of like randomly generated or whatever. And I was like, yeah, same. I don't
Maybe
know
if
why.
you had recently watched a true crime one,
Maybe.
that's what they suggested in your thing.
It was
But
just really
she had
weird.
watched all of them already.
I
So
pretty much watched all
This was
of them,
the
yeah.
only one left that she hadn't watched, so we could watch it together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As it filtered through, I was like, oh, I've seen that. I've like watched more than I thought. I was like, no, I've seen that. Oh yeah, I've seen that one too.
all of them.
Oh, I saw that one.
Which
that was good.
Which one's your? Have you watched them all this year? Like, which one's been your favorite one out of the ones? That's, like,
I haven't watched them all
because there's quite a few
this
that
year.
are like
I've watched a
limited
lot.
series.
Yeah, I've watched a lot. Like, I mean, Netflix has like a lot of true crime stuff. I really liked I liked the art heist one we watched. I also really liked Making a Murderer. That one's older, but really good. I liked I don't remember what it was called, but it was about the serial rapist. Ramir, I don't know. And then Night Stalker, that's what it was called. And then I really liked now that Netflix is doing, and I'm pretty sure Ron Howard's producing them. I don't know where he came from, but it's fine. The case file things that Netflix does. Like the first season was on Elisa Lam, and then the second season that I just watched a few weeks ago was on it was on the torso murders in Times Square in the 80s. 90 or not
Maybe
90s,
it's just a
70s
thing
or 80s.
right now. People are super into it, so they're just coming out.
I guess.
with them.
I don't know, but Netflix usually has, if they're Netflix produced, they're usually pretty good. But yeah, so I've watched a lot of true crime on Netflix. I think I've exhausted all the ones on Hulu, so I don't know. Usually it's what I do with like my Friday nights. Like I watch true crime, but it's hard to find them when they're not coming out.
I watched
with
it during the
them.
day, and I was okay. I had never heard about this particular case. I know Gabby had, and I mean, let me try to break it down chronologically, because the intro, they introduced to you this this chick.
Oh, she's like narrating it.
Right, she's
kind of.
narrating it.
Amanda Knox.
And starting off with her childhood and kind of going off the premise, which I think this continues through the whole thing. And I'm like, that's kind of a weak argument or thing to say. But she's like, I'm really weird.
I'm so dead. She said something. She didn't say that exactly, but she was like, I've always been comfortable in my own. She gives off weird energy.
Or whatever.
She gives off weird energy
like,
to
which,
me.
again, you can be weird and not a murderer, okay? Because we both are that.
Yeah.
We might become murderers.
I'm not.
In the next 10 years. Actually, out of the three of us, the only person who would actually possibly get away with murder would be you. So,
Thank you.
all I have to say.
That means a lot. Thank you so much, dude.
But Amanda, I mean, I guess she did. If she did murder,
I'm not convinced.
I'm
she
not
did.
convinced.
I
But
think
there's
she
just
maybe
weird-
knew more than she let on, but I don't think she was actually involved.
But also, I think if you just watch this documentary, use it as a lesson as to what not to do.
Also, the documentary wasn't that good overall as a documentary, not the case, but the documentary.
Yeah, I really liked.
Wasn't that good.
There
but-
were two characters who literally carried it all the way through. But yeah, other than that, I mean, just the choice to make her narrate it from the beginning. I don't know. I found her kind of annoying. Not, which is fine. It's okay.
I mean, I'd
Yeah,
probably be
she
annoying
opens-
too if I spent like 5 years in an Italian prison for something I definitely didn't do. But I mean, yeah, dude, she has weird energy. But
It gave me a little bit of like the "Are you complicit?" energy.
are you? Oh, that was a good one. That's another one I really enjoyed. Was "Don't F with Cats." I liked that. That was a good one. Yes,
but that was what? That wasn't a one documentary. It was like 2 or 3 episodes, right?
it was like it was like 4 episodes maybe.
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
very good.
That one had me clenching. I was
was a good
little
one.
bit scared, but yes, that was a good one. This one, like I said, them opening with her being like, "I was a unique child, and I really wanted to just have this coming of age opportunity." She was in college, right? And she studied abroad.
Yeah,
for a
she
semester.
went.
It wasn't in high
over,
school. She was in university.
in like her 20s, and she went over to Italy and Perugia, whatever.
Perugia, like,
and whatever Italian town, little small town or whatever. And she went over there to. I don't know if it was a study abroad or she was just staying over there for
abroad, yeah.
summer. I don't know what was happening, but yeah, she like moved into this house with. It was her, 2 Italian women,
and then this
other girl from
England.
She was English.
English.
And her name
British.
was Meredith. That's the girl who was murdered.
Meredith Kircher.
Kircher. And yeah, I think it was just 4 of them in like this house that they were. And she hadn't met, and none of them knew each. I don't know about the Italian women, but none of the other ones, like they didn't know each other. She had met Meredith like the very first time that they went over there or whatever, and they moved in together. And that's where she was murdered.
Yeah, where the whole story began. I
I remember this case being
I
like
don't-
really big back in when
I
it
just see- I
happened. I
don't.
remember the news kind of talking about it because it was, I mean, I was a child at the time, but it was one of those, it's kind of like Casey Anthony. Everybody's talking about it.
Right.
Everybody has their own speculations, except I was a lot older when Casey Anthony had her little moment. But like, but it was one of those controversial cases that everyone in the nation was talking about, especially since it happened abroad.
Yeah.
But so everybody was like talking about it. I remember that because Amanda Knox kind of became like a household name, but I was kind of too young to really understand like what was going on. I just remember adults around me talking about it and blah blah blah. But and like it being on the news all the time and like updates and crap. But yeah, I think it's one of those cases that I didn't know tons of detail about, except like this girl was accused of killing her housemate person.
And I mean, got convicted. But basically, leading up to it, she gets this little boyfriend, and we absolutely loved how they said we made love on like
Ew,
the first.
gross.
They did it for like what 5 days, 4 days,
They knew each other for like 4
and they
or
were
5
like
days.
boyfriend girlfriend. Which right off the bat, I'm like, okay, really great.
It's like when you have like a vacation bay. That was her vacation bay.
Yeah, but apparently it was like legit. If it wasn't for this murder to like split them up, it would have been like
It's Romeo and Juliet.
End game, dude. That's really what happened. But and that started like a few days before Meredith, the British girl, was killed. And this is where there's a lot of pieces to this, and I disagree with like so much of it. But basically the story is, as she says, she was staying over at her boyfriend's place, not at the house that the other 3 kids were staying at.
Oh, also, I looked this up after we watched it because I was very confused. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh.
There was, so the two, because remember we were watching a documentary and it didn't explain like where the other 2 housemates were, the Italian women.
Oh yeah.
We were like, where are they? So
True, 'cause
apparently,
it's just the 2 of them there.
yeah, it was just Meredith and Amanda.
Amanda.
Amanda went to stay with her boyfriend, allegedly, whatever. Meredith was in the house. And then it just like, because it mentioned at the beginning of the documentary, like there was 4 of them, but then it just completely ignores the fact of where these
There's
other 2 women
other
were.
people, yeah.
Apparently, the 2 Italian women or whatever, it was like an Italian holiday or something. So they had gone home or gone with their family. They weren't in the house.
Oh, okay.
So they went for a few days somewhere else because it was some Italian holiday or something like that.
Okay.
I don't know what holiday
Yeah,
it was.
because at first I was also really confused because they mentioned that this house
and then
had
they
4
just
people.
disappeared and never mentioned them again.
So that makes sense.
So they were like away with family or something like
Okay,
that.
okay.
Yeah.
So they have an actual alibi, unlike Amanda here, who is having some fun with the love of her life in his apartment. Which again, something I will constantly bring up is the fact that there's no other people around this apartment to confirm whether or not she was there. Unless again, I should have Googled and like maybe pressed a little
That's
bit
why
more
like
to
the
see, but
documentary was kind of like,
it's missing like some key questions that
just like common
viewer
sense
would,
stuff that
right,
I'm like, where are the
would
other 2
ask.
housemates?
But
anyway.
But she allegedly returns from this night at her boyfriend's, and this is where me and Gabby were like Gabby and I, we're losing our minds because she comes into the house. First off, the door is unlocked. Or it wasn't left open.
It was either unlocked or slightly open. Which
no, it was slightly open.
I wouldn't have gone in. I'd be
Yes,
like, nope,
right
not
off the
dealing with
bat.
that.
I'm like,
Let me call the
you're living
police.
on your
Like,
own with 3 other women, and the door
in a foreign country.
2 of the ladies were gone. So you only have 1 chick there who apparently was like pretty like normal.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah. And you see the door left open.
Like after you're gone all night and you come back, she came back in the morning.
Yeah.
And the door was slightly open or something.
So right off the bat,
and she still goes in and it's like, it's fine. I would have been like, absolutely not. Like I'm not going into to my house that the door's open. It could be something super innocent like, oh, my roommate forgot to shut the door, which even that's weird, but thought it was shut and it bounced back open. Whatever it is, I still wouldn't go in.
Yeah, why would you ever, like, if you came up to your apartment and your apartment door was open?
Absolutely not.
You wouldn't go in.
Absolutely
A house,
not.
even if you were the only person living in the house, you live with another person. I already was like, she did it automatically. Because I'm like, that's your story, that the door was left open.
I think a lot of this is just like stupidity.
The whole thing, because so she walks in, and I think that all the other doors in the house were open except Meredith's bedroom.
Yeah,
that was
shut.
closed or locked or whatever. So she
think it
didn't even
was
go
locked.
in. She thought that, yeah, it was locked, and she thought that the chick was sleeping. And she's like, okay, I'm going to go take a shower. This is where once again, I just don't believe it, because she saw blood stains on the faucet, like a few drips of blood. And she was like, oh, okay, maybe somebody had a cut, whatever, which again, that is already the second strike. You've already been out, but this is the second strike.
Well, okay, it was like, yeah, on the sink. And then she said She got in the shower.
Yes, and she didn't see this until she got out of the shower.
Which, once again, I'm like, you just must be like, I know people
oblivious.
are super unaware. Like, there are people who are
I'm
just
like,
so unaware.
I would have been so freaked out already.
But she gets out of the shower and says there's blood on the bath mat. Like, when you get out of the shower, that she didn't see. But, like, significant amount of blood.
Yes, a more significant amount of blood than what was on the faucet. And still, she's like, but you know what? That didn't really freak me out. What really freaked me out.
I'm like, sis, that's not period blood. Like, clearly.
I don't know what she thought it was. If somebody, I don't know, cut their leg open or their foot or something.
And just left it there?
And left it there.
Like, what?
Which, once again, the door's left open. You saw already blood on the faucet. There's blood on this bath mat. But then when she realized that the toilet, somebody had used it.
Someone, like, crapped and didn't flush. Millie's like, I'm not going to say that on the podcast.
I was trying to find a way to say it, like, kosherly. But yeah, somebody crapped on the toilet.
Sorry.
And left it there. And that's what freaks her out, which...
She was like, that was really strange.
Really weird. I'm like, dude,
I was
you
like,
live
the
with
blood
4
was
people.
fine.
I'm like, if y'all were drunk and you didn't realize that you took a deuce on the
I'm
toilet and
so
forgot to
dead.
flush, I'm like, I
dead.
understand that more than the door being left open and blood everywhere, but to each their own. So the deuce creeped her out. Took a deuce on the toilet and left it there. And then she was like, oh my gosh. So she proceeds to call Stefano.
I don't know what her
I think it was
boyfriend's name
Stefano. If not, I'm going to call him Stefano.
That's not it. That's not
I think
it
it was Stefano.
No, it's not. It wasn't Stefano. Was
Okay.
It?
This Italian love of her life.
It was not. I'm looking it up because
Okay.
I know you're
While
wrong.
she looks it up, I'm going to continue this great story.
Go ahead.
So doors open. She's taking a shower. Blood everywhere. And she's like, wait, there's like stuff on the toilet. There might be something wrong.
I'm so dead.
So she calls her boyfriend and she's like, oh my gosh, you need to come over. I'm really freaked out. Like, of course.
His name is Raphael.
I like Stefano better.
Stefano.
It's like you coming up with names that fit better for people.
That's true. Raphael Solicito.
Oh, Solicito. Yeah. Raphael. So, and Raphael makes his way over. And this is where, because they both then start telling their sides of the story. Because when they're both together, that's when they try to get into this room, correct? Because Meredith didn't reply.
Yeah, so they try to get into... Well, yeah. First of all, sis, I don't know why you're calling your boyfriend. I don't know what he's supposed to do.
I'm like, after 4 days, you're going to trust him to... Anyway. Doesn't have to make sense. When Raphael gets there, they start looking at the house, what's going on, and the fact that Meredith's door is locked and she's not replying. Like, they knocked, they called her name, she wasn't replying, so they're like, wait, let's get into this room. By then, I would have called police. Let me just say.
I would have called police like 5,000 hours ago.
Yeah, before I entered the house. But it's okay. So whenever they get the door unlocked, they find Meredith dead, naked, like wrapped in some blankets. Mm-hmm. And the window outside of her room is broken. Like if the person allegedly escaped out of the window. And then, guys, they decided to call the police. So good on them. The police come and then they show footage of when this actually happened. And the police, let me just tell you something right now. Gabby had watched a documentary on the police. What was it? In Ireland?
Oh,
Scotland? The Guardia?
It was Ireland. It was
Ireland. And they're called the Guardia. Cork, the Guardia. The Italian police are not as good as the Guardia. Okay?
They're the
they
Polizia.
Polizia. And their uniforms are so funny. And the fact that that's just how they went about.
Botched, dude. It was botched.
Botched job, which is most cases, I have to admit. They're all botched, but I don't know. These people really crack me up. So
the chief or whatever he's called, the captain or whatever, he was like cracking me up.
So funny. So they get there and they're starting to take pictures and already botching the crime scene, as we expect. And Raphael, and Amanda are outside the house making out.
They're like making out. They're so weird because there's like
so weird.
They're like, yeah. I mean, there's one thing to be like comforting each other and being like, oh, like crap, there's a dead body in there, dude. But like
they're like
making out. It's so weird. Like outside the crime scene,
like a few steps away from the house,
which is weird. But that doesn't mean you murdered anybody. It's weird behavior.
Because like I said, what she said at the beginning of the movie is that she's weird, so she's gonna do weird things, right? Of course, makes sense.
I guess.
So and here enters my favorite character, which is this Italian chief.
Oh, the chief. I thought you were talking about the reporter. Okay.
No, the reporter's also really funny. I know he cracked you up.
He did. But the chief, yeah.
The chief comes in and he starts analyzing this crime scene.
Okay, let it be known that this crime scene, like we said, was botched, but like people were like footage of they're in and out, not with booties, not changing like the things
gloves
on their shoes. They're just like there's tons of people. It's not contained. People are coming in and out.
Which of course is what becomes a problem later on.
Yeah.
The
Anyway,
fact that this
go
was
on.
watched. And he comes in, and right off the bat, it's just like the things he already started saying. He's like, I know this was a woman who killed Meredith.
He said something interesting that I was like, I don't know if that's the statistic in Italy, but here definitely not. Where he said the body was covered, it was covered in sheets and or a towel or something to cover it up. And usually when women kill, that's what they do. And I was like, no. Like a lot of times, usually if you find a body and the body's covered up with a sheet or a towel or just something to just cover the body so you don't have to look at it, usually that means the person who killed them probably knew them. Doesn't mean man or woman. It just means they didn't want to have to look at what they did because they know the person or whatever.
Right.
So I don't know why, but that was the first thing he said that I was like, I don't really understand that.
Also, this is a quiet town.
Yeah.
Which in a lot of cases, it also becomes their downfall because they're not used to
Because didn't they say they had to, or maybe that was the other documentary I watched, that they had to bring in somebody else to help?
Yeah, but I think eventually later on in the case, they had to bring out outside help.
Like a different,
to handle such a case like that.
Yeah, because it's like a Perugia or whatever. It was like a small town, like you said. So like they had to have another city help with the investigation because they didn't have the resources to do it.
Or experience or whatever it was.
Right. Yeah.
So he sees the girl wrapped up in blankets, and so he says that weird comment about it being a woman, but I guess somebody who knew the person. And when he sees how the window was broken, but then you see the exterior of the house, there's no signs that the person actually left through that exit. And he's like, obviously this is a setup.
And there was nothing stolen. So because the first theory was also like this was a break-in gone wrong.
Right.
But then
her being naked, that,
well, then she was also
rape.
sexually assaulted. And so, which anyway is a whole other thing. Because I'm like, then why is your first suspect a woman? But it doesn't matter. And Amanda had said like, there's nothing missing. There's nothing gone, which happens a lot of times. Once again, if the person knows the person, they'll stage a break-in to make it look like it was some unknown person and it went wrong and someone got killed in the process. But then there's nothing missing. So it's like, well, then obviously this isn't a break-in. That wasn't about that. So that was kind of like the thing that was kind of like, not sure about this, like, theory. But, yeah.
Yeah, and then so they make out.
They make out,
they do the crime scene thing, and this is where Italian police are so good. So they have to get interviewed, and just the way she goes about the interview process angers me.
Who, Amanda?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, both of them. But they get called into the police station, and they answer their questions. And I think the first time they got interviewed, they got let go because they answered all the questions. It was totally fine. It's when I have to get Stefano out of my mind. Raphael went back.
He was called back.
He was called back in.
Not Amanda,
right? Because he's a man and would be closest to the scene or connected.
I guess
to the scene,
I don't know why they
he's
called
the one
him back in. I guess.
But they called him back in, but not Amanda. But Amanda was so nervous about this whole thing that she comes with him. And it's like outside the police station while he's getting interviewed. And starts freaking out and super nervous. And she causes herself to go back in to get interviewed. And this is where things go poorly. Although they even have tapes. And that's why I was really like, I mean, I don't think she did it because they have tapes of her conversations with family back home. And she's just like, she doesn't admit anything, obviously. And it's just like, oh, I feel weird about this. I've had such a bad day. And I'm like, yeah, I think you've had a bad day.
She was talking to one of her friends before she was interviewed the second time, I think.
Yeah.
And was like, this is so crazy. And her friend was like, well, it's totally fine.
Like, you're in such a great place.
You're in a great place. And like, this is just a little, paraphrasing, but like, this is pretty much just like, this is a little blip on your on your trip. Like, have a good time for the rest
tell
of the
me
time.
that if I ever have something traumatic happen, just be like, it's a little blip, sis.
It's a little blip. It's just a little bump in the road.
Just go with your new boyfriend, and it's gonna be all good. Is what she said, basically.
And then her friend was like, "Wait, so is he your boyfriend?" And Amanda was like, "Oh my god, yeah," or something like that. I don't really know. The conversation was like one of those that you're like, "Dude, whatever, all right."
I don't care, but basically, with her freaking out over her boyfriend being interviewed again,
made her sus.
And so this night is when things went so wrong, because the chief is talking about how he was trying to get straight up with Amanda and get some answers.
And the Italian police do seem really scummy in this regard.
Yeah,
at least in this town or whatever. So like, yeah, they probably were like being kind of bastards, but you know.
So I think it's like the chief with whoever else, and what they say versus what Amanda says is different. You know, Amanda says, you know, that they were being super hostile and saying things that she did do. She must have done. You did do it, so just admit it.
And then they were like, you're not remembering right. You need to remember something different. Because what she was saying, she was like, I had nothing to do with this. And they're like, well, you don't remember. You need to tell us what you actually remember.
Right.
And then I think they interviewed her for like several hours, like through the night. And then she claims that they hit her at one point, or somebody slapped her, one of the officers. And then they wouldn't let her eat or use the bathroom or anything. Of course, the police are like, yeah, we let her use the bathroom. We let her eat. We let her all do, he said, she said kind of stuff. But I'm inclined to believe women and not the police, so I'm gonna have to believe that. But
they seemed aggressive.
Yeah, so they seemed overall it was just like aggression, whereas they are saying like no. And then it kind of got to the point where she confessed something. She implicated somebody else who had
correct. Well, no, their boss. Because, for example, that was another alibi, not an alibi, because she just claims that she didn't go into work. She just went to Raphael's apartment.
Well, because the whole thing with that night was that they were like, did you leave your apartment at any time, or his apartment at any time? And she said no. She was like, I was supposed to go to work. However, her boss called her or texted her and said, we're good. Don't come in. We have it covered. You can stay home or whatever.
Right.
So she ended up not leaving.
And it was this text that was what freaked her out, because apparently the police understood it in Italian in some other way than what she intended.
Even
like
though
something was lost in translation, and she was like, "No,
suppose.
this means that I didn't have to come into work." And they were like, "No, this means that you were
said,
covering
like,
something up." Or
well, she said like, "See you later" or something, and the Italian police were like, "See you later." That means that you were going to see him later to go kill Meredith. And she was like, "Sis, huh?" But then throughout all of this, after being interviewed, I don't know how many hours, but definitely several hours. She ended up giving a false confession and implicating her boss, and said, yes, I think she said that they met up
to just give them what they wanted.
And then, like she said that her and her boss met up and then went to her apartment or the house where Meredith was and killed her.
And she heard a scream. I don't think she was
outside the house.
She was outside the house.
Yeah, and she heard somebody screaming from the inside when her boss went in. So this random guy, her boss, is now implicated in this
Which
thing.
is hilarious to me, because you see him like all of 4 seconds.
And she implicated herself, at least as an accessory.
Raphael.
Yeah, her boyfriend, Raphael.
And her boss.
And her boss, and that was it. That was those three.
All 3 of them.
I was just like, LOL. Her boss was probably like, dude, what the heck? What did
I do to you?
And
in the process of this, Raphael, like this young love,
I'm so dead.
is
put
put to the test, because
he throws her under the bus, right?
He throws her under the bus. And he says, yeah, she came over at night.
But then she left. So this is all real messy.
So here's the thing. If that part is true, then I don't know if she's innocent.
I don't know, because at this point, it's always hard because...
So I'm like, did you lie? And once again, the documentary doesn't really go back to that point. I'm like,
Not
all
really.
these false confessions, can we work through them and see what was
But there was...
correct or
But
not?
there, I watched another documentary on false confessions, and they're uncommon, but not as uncommon as you would think they are. Especially after someone's been interrogated. Sometimes interrogations can go on for like 10, 12 hours. If you don't lawyer up and you're just there,
done.
People don't know. They can walk out at any time. At least in America. I don't know how it works in other countries. But in America, if you're not under arrest and people are interrogating you, you can leave. I don't think people know that. So they sit there. And if you ask, like, am I under arrest? And they say, well, not yet. You're like, well, then I'm leaving. But I don't think people, assume that they have to stay there.
Yeah.
And they don't lawyer up, which even if I was guilty or not guilty, I'd be like, I want a lawyer. I'm not saying crap about nothing. Like, I want a lawyer. Because, like, these people will twist your words and whatever, and all of a sudden you're being implicated in something. But I think it was the combination for all of them, whether whatever was true or not about whoever being there or whatever. I think after, like, so many hours of being interrogated, they just started to say things just to get out. And plus, the way interrogations also go, you kind of think, like, well, how could someone manipulate someone into saying something they didn't do? But it's at the same time, it's like, well, these people are trained to be interrogators.
Apparently she got overwhelmed and just gave them what she thought they already believed about her.
Right.
So why not? She just wanted to get out of the room and the situation.
But by doing that, she implicated 2 other people and herself, one of which wasn't even around when any of this went down.
He was so confused. And that's how that night ended. So they had that false confession from
I think
Amanda,
she was arrested at that point.
and she was arrested. And her boyfriend said, yeah, this chick left my apartment, which okay. Again, that never really was explained, but okay. That's what he
you
said.
Can't know if she did or not.
I know.
Yeah.
And so they end up arrested. And this is where the whole other side of the documentary, kind of like Don't F with Cats, kind of went into the power of social media and how a Facebook group found out.
It is like really, you find that really funny.
But this time it was about how investigations like these really get ruined by the media and journalism. And
Well, it's like trial by media kind of. Well, that was another documentary I watched on Netflix called Trial by Media. Anyway, but all these, but
make a connect.
But it is kind of one of those things. Well, I was gonna say compared to Casey Anthony as well. It was trial by media, but she got off. So at that case, but
it certainly didn't help.
No, I don't think it ever helps.
No, that ever
and
helps,
because of course journalists want all the the skeezy details.
Enter character
my favorite
two.
character.
Your favorite. I don't remember this man's name. I think he still is around writing great news articles.
British or something?
No, he was British. He was British also.
He was British. Yeah.
Well, because here's the thing.
Well, because it was
this
British.
This is an American who ended up in Italy, and this is where the murder happened, and it's a murder of an English lady. So an English journalist came to Italy to cover press.
An American killed a British woman in Italy.
Correct.
So who has jurisdiction over this case? I suppose I would think Britain, but Britain didn't seem to really care.
No, they were like, Italy, you take it.
Like, you would think the British police would be all over this, but I don't know. They didn't seem to care. At least in the documentary.
Didn't find that important. Yeah. This is about journalism, okay?
Okay.
So this guy shows up and he's really already talking to people, getting everybody nice and comfy with them. He's like, I'm gonna get these
skeezy, dude.
He was really skeezy. Here's the thing, he's so cheeky about it. He's like, yeah, gross. I know. He's like, I'm gonna get that news article out.
Well, because he went
true. He's like, but you know what? People die to see sex on the headlines, and murder and whatever else. He's like, people live for that,
especially of a young. I feel like that's another thing, is young women who are implicated in murders, whether they're guilty or not, usually don't get a fair trial, in my opinion, from the media, because it's like you have
when they talk about that,
you have a really pretty young girl and who looks like all American teenager type, and it just never works out in the media because people love that. People love to see a woman on trial convicted of a murder, something really heinous, but she looks so innocent and young or pretty or whatever it may be. So I think that's just like the whole like stigma around it, and the whole I don't know the word, but like the whole situation, the whole thing, the whole like glamorization of like this like murder that happened. It's not some like crusty guy who looks like he killed 20 people before this case.
No one cares about that, honestly.
It's the girl who has a good upbringing, and wow, what went wrong? Is she crazy? Is she insane? Is she a sex fiend? Like, what is it?
Right.
Like,
and that becomes deeply problematic because as she's in jail, waiting on her trial dates in court and whatever, and this guy from Britain starts releasing these articles, along with tons of other people, about how she is an American who came over, living abroad, and she wanted to hook up with every guy. And
like
she
was
really together with this, right?
Blah, blah, blah.
And the fact that she was dating this guy for 5 days, and
then they murdered
together, and she's just crazy.
And then the thing that he didn't really speak on, but he definitely gave the impression, a very heavy impression, that he was definitely involved with, but he didn't talk about it, was when she was in jail, she was writing in like a diary or something.
Which is this was the part that I liked.
That was not right.
That was not right.
But like, she's writing in some diary, and she's just writing down, and I don't remember what the situation was exactly.
That she hooked up with however many guys, and
because he somehow, and once again, I think the interviewer asked him about this, and he was like,
right,
well, I have my ways of doing things, and he kind of smiled, but he didn't say if it was him or somebody he hired or someone from his firm or whoever he works for.
Journalist,
came in and somehow got a hold of this diary she was writing in and published what she had written in it in the paper.
Because the police told her they have to test you before you go into jail. And they told her she was HIV positive, which was a lie, which is I have no idea why they did this.
Yeah.
But in the diary, she's like, oh my gosh, I'm just starting off. I'm so young. And she listed
They told her she had AIDS.
Oh, AIDS, not HIV. Sorry,
but
AIDS.
Yeah, she was. I think it was both. I think she was HIV positive and she had AIDS.
Right.
And because they had to, which isn't unusual, that you test everything. You have a medical test before you go into the jail to see what medication you need to be on, if any. And but they told her
in her diary.
They told her that she had AIDS, and so she's in jail, and she's like writing down and like all the partners
all these guys.
She had, whatever.
And she's like, I don't know who I got it from, blah 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 blah. And this is the diary that gets published, and then starts a conversation of like, oh my gosh,
her sexuality,
she's
like promiscuous.
And the nice words of saying.
You were about to say whore. I knew you.
I
heard the and I was like, I was gonna say whore.
But basically, that's what they're writing in the news articles, that she must have been going around every night, and obviously she killed this chick. And honestly, this becomes her downfall, which again isn't even it.
Which is so sad. Here's the thing that really pisses me off.
Number one, and number two, that should have nothing to do with it. If we're being honest,
this chick was like what, 22, 23? I don't know how. Maybe a little younger than that.
Yeah, longer.
But I don't know. She was in her early 20s, I believe. she said something like, and once again, the fact this is even common knowledge is like really disgusting and gross.
Mm-hmm.
But she wrote in like this like jail diary or whatever she had that was then published by this British guy, this British reporter had something to do with it. But like, and this really pisses me off. And like, they even talk about this in like the rap world and stuff, where a woman, she was like, oh, I've had like 5 or 7 partners or something like that in her life or something like that, which like, girl, go off, whatever. But I'm like, if this was a guy, no one would have anything to say about it. They'd be like, oh, he's a big baller, shot caller. He's had sex with 7 women. But when a girl,
or that he should have had more. I'm like,
that's
a low end.
That's a low end.
Yeah.
But when a girl has sex with 7 guys, she's a whore. And I'm like, well, that's really stupid. That's not fair. Like that's because anyway, that's a whole other tangent. But
and it honestly becomes her downfall.
Yeah,
because
and
what
that's
the guy, what the chief says at the very end.
Okay,
which
can we go into that theory? This was ridiculous. This was stupid.
She ends up being exonerated. You can look into it yourself. But basically, this theory
really
made
no
sense. And also the little animation they did to visualize his theory. I'm like, how did we get from the theories we had? Oh, wait, we can't get to that theory until we talk about the guy. The other guy.
Well, the guy and the knife.
Okay.
We're like, I'm sorry, that theory just like really pissed me off. Okay,
pissed me off because
can we just, up until this point, everything is circumstantial. They have no DNA for anything.
No. And it still becomes botched, the DNA they do have. Yeah. So basically, her boss is let go from the jail because he has nothing to do with it.
The boss, he was let go
There's
pretty
footage
quickly.
of him like leaving the jail, and he's like, looks so dead inside, poor man.
He's
so
like the stupid
Amanda,
American
Knox,
girl. Like,
and
totally.
Raphael.
Yeah.
But then...
I don't know how it comes about.
Was it her or him?
Who said about this guy? I don't remember. But somehow it got brought up that this other Italian guy was hanging out with them, I think the days prior to the murder. But he had also been arrested in the past for break-ins. Somehow it came about that they started looking at this guy. He had fled to Germany.
He did.
Right after the murder.
I remember how they brought it up. I think it was one of the two of them
mentioned his name or something.
That Meredith was hanging out with this guy.
Yeah. Something like that. But he, like, right after the murder had fled to Germany. So the Italian police had to extradite him back.
Right.
To Italy.
Even though when he basically ends up on the phone with a undercover investigator.
No. I think it was his friend.
Oh, his friend.
He was on the phone with or Zoom or something with his friend who agreed to turn him in or work with the police or whatever.
Right.
He didn't say he killed Meredith, but he did implicate himself that he was there.
Right. And that's why he fled when he realized that
she was dead. But they bring him back. They question him.
Although when he is talking to his friend, what we both found really weird is that the fact that he said, I didn't do it, but for sure I know that Amanda had nothing to do with it. I'm like, why would you know that name? Unless, like...
Well, he probably knew it because I think they hung out before the murder.
That's a weird thing to say. Like, how do you not know?
But it was very out of place. Yeah, very out of place to be like...
I know that Amanda had
I know Amanda didn't have anything to do with it. Maybe because he's saying that because he had seen the news and that she had been arrested or whatever. But
it was weird.
It seemed very scripted to be like, but I know Amanda didn't do it. Ha 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 ha. Like I don't understand that.
Well,
that's how he sounded to me. I don't know. He was speaking Italian, so I don't really know how he sounded. But
and he was brought in.
Yeah, so he was brought in. I think he was arrested. He was sitting.
He's gonna get out of jail and. Even though the Italian was like, "Who's gonna get out of jail right now?" Huh? I did my job.
Yeah, he's been out of jail.
Yes, and it was the other
because I think he was convicted on like 20. He was convicted on like 25 years, and he got out at like 15. His lawyer was like, "All right." He was like, "You can say I did like a really like sucky job, but who's out of prison right now? My guy." Like I'm like, dude, he's still got like 16 years.
Me up.
But yeah, so he's been out of prison, I think, and he's on parole or whatever. But yeah, so then, but the knife thing was weird because that was also something that I was like, okay.
Well, the thing about it is that this knife was found in Raphael's apartment because they couldn't find a murder weapon. They had looked through the kitchen in the house and they found nothing that would implicate it being the murder weapon. But when they analyzed this kitchen knife in Raphael's house, they found supposedly Meredith's DNA at the tip of the blade and Amanda's DNA
also on the handle.
On the handle.
Which I'm like, yeah, dude, her DNA probably is on the handle because she was like not living with, but in and out of his apartment
But then
for like
she
5
proceeds
days.
to say, not that would make perfect sense. She's like, I have no idea how that DNA ended up
Like,
on the
sis,
blade. I'm like, just say that you go to his apartment
and y'all
for
were
the 5
cooking.
days and you were cooking, and there you go.
But
no,
then
she's
also,
dumb.
but if Meredith's DNA is on the end of the blade, then that looks really bad. Either way, if you
Right.
say I was handling the knife, or no, I wasn't handling the knife ever. Like, it just it looks bad. But
So those are the 2 new pieces of evidence that they spent some time talking about.
that's the only DNA they have.
That's it.
Because
they
of
tried to go around in
course-
the room, and that's what. No. I remember how this guy came up. Sorry.
Oh,
when
'cause
they
when
did
the
the
rape
analysis,
kit.
the rape. His DNA was found somewhere in the
Well,
room.
they found unknown DNA. I think this is what happened. I don't quote me on this, but I think it maybe happened like, I forgot about that. Thanks. But the unknown DNA, when they did the rape kit, they found the unknown male DNA in her underwear or whatever. Right. They put it into their database or whatever. They get a hit on it, I think. I don't know if they get a hit on it later when they enter this guy's DNA or what, but something happened where his name comes up. They go get him. They bring him back. They test him. The DNA matches.
Right.
Okay, this is where it gets really screwy for me because I'm like, you probably have your guy. Like, you could say that it was consensual and then somehow she got murdered later that night. I had nothing to do with it, but we had sex. I left. She got murdered. Not my fault. But he doesn't. He's like, no,
We
don't
didn't
know
hook
her.
up, we didn't do
We never had
nothing.
sex. So then, like, okay, well then
he was
dude,
hanging
like,
out with her, realized that she was murdered in the other room because he wasn't in the room or whatever. Heard a scream, saw it.
He said
And
he
got
left or
scared because
something.
he was already. I forgot what
he had like a
got.
warrant. Well, he has
warrant.
several. I think he's been arrested several times,
Right,
like
and he got
break-ins.
scared that he would just be implicated, and he didn't want to, so he fled
So
to
he
Germany.
left
But
to Germany, dude. Like, picked up and
He really
left
said,
to a different
"Whoop."
country.
But
So it was something like that. But I'm like, okay, that's pretty much like you have his DNA where he said he wasn't at or whatever. He said they didn't have sex, so obviously, like, it's a pretty good chance this guy raped and killed this chick. But somehow this Italian investigator
Dude,
gets
I
it in his
don't-
head because he can't let go of the. First of all, the Amanda's DNA on the knife is the only
which then proved
non-circumstantial
to not even work because
evidence.
they had a botched job in the DNA lab.
Well, then, okay, so it's back to the knife. They implicate Amanda in this. The DNA, I think, is what sends her to prison. She's in prison for like 4 years. I think they appeal it. It goes to court again. They have a third-party forensic examiner look at this knife.
and realize that.
And who has no involvement in the case, had no involvement in the case 4 years prior, does DNA on the knife and is like, yeah, there's no DNA of Meredith on here. Like, there's nothing. No.
She's like, depending on how they did the investigation and how many items they were trying to analyze for DNA, she's like, it could have easily been messed up.
Yeah.
Somebody could have touched this, touched that, transfer. So basically, this
So
one
the
piece
one
of evidence
DNA
you have,
evidence they have, the one piece of evidence that's not circumstantial is like it's not even valid. Like,
Right.
there's nothing there. So I think that's what got her off. But like,
and she ends up back in America.
yeah, and she after like 4 or 5 years, and she's able to go home. But
Sucks.
but the theory that the Italian investigator came
Makes
up with
no
after this guy,
sense.
because the guy who actually did rape Meredith and presumably kill her, he was sent to prison. The Italian investigator just couldn't let go of the fact that he was like, Amanda
No, Amanda's
still had
definitely
something
the
to do
one.
with it.
She's
So
the
his
one.
theory, this was the dumbest theory I've heard in my whole life. I've heard like a lot of dumb theories,
no.
but
This takes the cake.
this was pretty bad. Was that Amanda and well, that's not his name. Yes, it is. You said
Yes.
something else. I'm like, well, I don't even know this guy's name anymore.
Stefano.
Yeah, not
Okay,
her
Raphael.
boyfriend, dude.
Yes.
Was where they said they were at the apartment, whatever.
No, then they come
No,
over
no,
to
no,
the
no. I
house.
know.
Oh, okay,
Meredith was at the house,
with this other guy.
apparently. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was actually arrested and whatever. They come over to the house, Amanda and her boyfriend. They come over to the house. They're hanging out or whatever.
Everybody cracking up.
Just because it doesn't make any sense. They're hanging out. Meredith comes out of her room, and it's Amanda, the guy who was
the other
convicted,
three.
and
Her boyfriend.
Raphael. And they're hanging out, and Meredith somehow, he explained, is like annoyed that she has friends over.
No.
Two boys over
That she's-
at the same time.
That she thinks that since Meredith was a goody two shoes, that
He said,
she got annoyed.
which how
that
would
she,
he know this? I don't know. But he was like, well, Meredith, she's not promiscuous like Amanda. So I think she was annoyed that she had two boys over. So she's telling Amanda to tell them to leave. A struggle ensues. It was some sex thing. Amanda gets upset And all three of them kill
her.
Meredith because Amanda's upset at her being upset that she has more sex than she does. That was literally, it sounds stupid, but that's literally what this guy said.
Or for example, that it has something to do with that, or it could be that the three of them wanted to have like an orgy or something.
I'm so dead.
And Meredith was an unwilling participant, so they were all in on it.
And it was some sadistic
like
type
that.
of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
That Meredith come out and was like, Amanda, oh my gosh, how could you just be here and hook up with all these guys? I'm so offended.
It was like the
and
dumbest
Amanda
theory.
had some sort of switch flip in her head, and she was like, I'm really pissed off that you think I'm a whore. And killed her.
Yeah.
Out of spite.
It was like,
and I guess one of the guys must have like also had sex with her in the process. That is honestly
that's the best they could do.
That's his theory, and that's what he still believes to this day.
He's like on this documentary. He was like, "Yep, that's what happened."
When Amanda ended up in jail, he apparently was regarded as a hero in Italy.
He was like, everybody would say hi to me,
and that I really did my job as an Italian man.
Yeah,
and I was like, I mean, okay. But
he's like, I'm a
when
Catholic.
He said this theory,
so
he tried to connect that
he
too.
really
He's
did.
like, even if Amanda got off here on Earth, she has like God to answer to.
God's waiting on her.
And I was like,
what is
wow,
happening?
my guy.
So he was really convinced. This British journalist guy was just kind of like, yeah, I don't really know what happened, but I know that I got a lot of money out of this thing, so whatever.
Which again goes back to the fact that like, not that this case held any water to begin with, but how muddy the waters got when our journalist guy said, let me post this diary, and convinced
they called her
Foxy Noxy.
Foxy Noxy.
Which is so disgusting.
It's like really weird.
It's really weird, and it just didn't help her case at all.
No.
And the documentary ends with the fact that she was in America, and after they found, I don't know what other piece they found or who opened up the case again, but basically Italy was going to call her back to get tried again.
Yeah.
Even after she was back in America. But it was decided that she would be fully like let go.
Exonerated. I think, well, because she didn't have to go to that trial. Because I think it was just, I don't know how they're, anytime I watch like
Italian
a documentary about like legal systems and different, like the one I watched on the Cork in West Cork in.
With the Guardia?
Ireland. I couldn't think of the name. Almost said Israel. And I was like, that's not right. But in Ireland, yeah, with the Guardia. Like the way that, because the woman who was murdered there was French. So the way the French dealt with the guy they believe killed her, because it's unsolved, was very strange. I don't quite understand. Well, they just had like a panel of judges, and I think Italy had a similar thing where they just have like a panel of judges. I think they have a jury, but I don't really know.
Which isn't honestly, the Italian lawyer was like, you can drag us for all you want, but you were writing in caves when we had like a legal system, and I was like, you're pulling that out of nowhere.
These Italians, they hated the American media so much because the American media was like dogging on their legal process. And one of the talk show hosts and late night talk show hosts and stuff like that in SNL were like dogging on the Italian legal process. And he was like, well, yeah, like you can dog on us all you want, dude. But like 400 years ago when we were well advanced, you guys were like, didn't even know how to make fire. So LOL. And he was really upset about it. But
he was.
But yeah, but she was exonerated. She didn't have to go back to Italy for that trial because I guess it was just judges deciding. It's weird. I don't know. And
that part doesn't make sense.
Her boyfriend just like called her and was like, "We're free."
No, she called her boyfriend. And she was like, "Raphael, we're actually free." And I don't think they ever ended up hooking up. And then they go back to Raphael guy like free in Italy, and he's like, "My life is over."
Well,
like I was happy when I got let out, but now I'm depressed, and I really thought that Amanda would be the one for me. We understood each other.
Anyway, so she now lives in Colorado.
A real quiet life.
Yeah, I think she's married.
I mean, again, I'm set. What?
She's married, I think, now.
Is she?
I think she is.
I don't know if the doctor.
She's married. No, well, I think she got married. I think she lives in Colorado somewhere.
Good for her. Like I said, I don't think the documentary was not helpful. Not that it should be one way or another, but
yeah, it was just a weird documentary. I feel like there was a lot of missing pieces and stuff.
Because once again, one of the questions I had immediately after watching was, did anybody see her leave? Or see them leave.
They didn't go into any
from
of that.
Their apartment.
They didn't go into any eyewitness accounts.
Anybody ask the apartment building or houses around that could have seen them leaving, if they saw them leaving or not? I'm like, that would be like a key piece of evidence. If you don't even have DNA at that point, it's just circumstantial. That would be pretty important.
Yeah,
because between the two of them, they can make up whatever, and even the stories didn't match up. But
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. I guess
I'm just like the whole thing.
the Italian police and lawyers like didn't really care. They're like, dude, we're gonna prosecute these people. We
Foxy
don't care
Noxy.
if we don't have like, I don't know. You're hard pressed to get somebody off if in America if you have a case that's all circumstantial.
Like it's not gonna happen, basically.
Like that's pretty wild. That's why a lot of times, even if people or general public or lawyers or whoever or the state know, like, yeah, this guy definitely did it. There's no doubt about it. But they don't have hard evidence, then they're not going to prosecute. They're going to wait until they find something. And
Because then once you do it,
well, yeah, you can't go back and be like, actually, never mind. Wait, we have something else. Like, no. So, and juries, they're not going to leave that in the hands of a jury.
She's free. The lesson is, don't go into a house if the door is open.
I'm so dead.
If you are Meredith, I don't know, don't.
What's the lesson for Meredith? I mean, she's a victim.
No,
what are you
no, not a lesson for Meredith. But I'm just like, the fact that these 4 people were living in a house alone, and I'm like, obviously you are not very smart with the decisions you made. Meredith is probably just trying to live her life, and unfortunately.
Well, that is also the other thing that sucks that happened is, which another documentary I watched kind of touched on this too. It's like, throughout all of this and like craziness in media and people just wanting headlines to have a headline, you also get the real victim gets lost in the story of Meredith. Like you don't talk about her anymore. The person who actually lost their life is like people couldn't care less about because they just want the like
Foxy Noxy story.
Yeah, the sensationalism. That's what I couldn't think of earlier. The sensationalism of this story. So yeah, her family, Meredith's family, I think they were on this documentary like once. Not even on the documentary. I think they pulled news footage. But of her family just being like they had to travel to a foreign country to look at the body, identify the body.
Like have to be part of the court.
Yeah, like that sucks. Like,
and you really, that's such a small part of probably the amount of time spent on it in real life and the amount of time that the documentary spent on it. But it's true, and it's just, I don't know. Looking back on it, I'm really surprised that as good as the Italian police are, you have to come up with a motive.
There was no motive.
There's no motive.
There's no motive.
Because the motive that he finally got to made no sense and had no...
He stood by it, though. He was like, yep, that's what happened.
That must have been what happened. But I'm really like, there's no... Right off the gate, even though he was like, the blanket means it was a woman, I'm like, okay, but then what's the motive?
Also, she was raped. That's why he had to work it in. He was like, she was raped. Let me see. Okay, well, that guy was also involved, but
let me tie this
Amanda was still involved because it was a sex weird thing and something. Like, it didn't make any sense at all.
So I'm just like, when you look at it, I'm like, no motive.
No.
She might be weird, but like we said at the beginning, it doesn't mean she did anything. And it's just, I'm like, isn't that basic? You need a motive.
Yeah, but some people, I think, with investigators, not that I know because I'm not an investigator, but it has happened a lot of times where they get tunnel vision and they find somebody who just isn't acting the way you would expect them to act after a murder happens. Which is a big part
also of the documentary. She's not acting like some...
Like making out really, outside the crime scene with her boyfriend like, she's known for 5 days.
In a disarray, having found a body. But no, they're kind of like, oh my gosh, how did this happen?
Yeah.
It's so weird. But like I said, you can't really expect anybody to react in any way.
So they get kind of like tunnel vision a little bit, I think, in that regard.
And stuck on her.
Yeah. But... Yeah, anyway, so no, hopefully she's doing well. Amanda
with her husband.
Knox,
I don't know.
I think
kids.
She's married.
And I mean, you can watch it yourself and let us know what you think. This is it's a good starter true crime.
I'm dead.
It didn't make me as scared as Don't F with Cats.
Although, again,
the fact that all of these documentaries are kind of like, yeah, we're going to cover the case, but we're going to talk about something outside of this case and how it has like a bigger meaning, whether it's social media or like journalism, which is just funny to me.
I liked Don't F with Cats. I really liked the Gardner heist, whatever.
Because that was a lot. Like, I like when you go through like a whole journey of like so many theories as to what actually happened. Because I'm still stuck on the items that were taken. Like, if I think about it, I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. I swear they're like in some guy's basement in like Saudi Arabia.
100%.
And the guy's just
Italians. It's the Italians. No. Basically, the Italians are the problem.
He just is like looking at it and it's just like, yeah. Meanwhile, there's like a whole documentary in America about it. And this guy's just like in the Middle East, just like smoking in front of his like painting, just like, I like looking at it. A little
flagpole thing.
Yeah.
That's such a weird.
Yeah.
Has eclectic taste. But like I always say, we cracked the case.
We figured it out.
We figured it out. Basically, I don't think it was Amanda. Maybe it was his man's or somebody totally who is now out and about, maybe still alive.
Well, I mean,
didn't even get into jail.
Technically, they're all out and about, whether they did it or not.
That'd always be scaring me. Still out and about in society.
But just like I say, when I watch Unsolved Mysteries, I watch an episode and I'm like, well, I figured it out, but I'm not going to tell anybody about it. I know it's been unsolved for 50 years, but I know what happened. I'm not going to say anything.
You understand?
I understand. I figured it out, but I'm not going to tell anybody.
Well,
so anyway, that's what's
gotta
going on
contact the
here.
Italian police.
I don't want to talk
police.
to them. I'm not. Whatever. Hey, I'm not going to snitch. I know snitch.
Okay. Well, Foxy Knoxy, I think will be all right.
I'm going to look her up right now.
What if she's married or has kids?
Yeah, because
Google who's Foxy Knoxy.
I'm not going to Google that.
This journalist.
I'm just curious. I just like to know like where are these people now? Amanda Knox. She's an author. She's verified on Twitter. She's an author. She has a podcast.
Not that I think this, but imagine she actually murdered this chick, and now she's like a podcast. Which I'm sure there's tons of horrible people out there who are like doing great in life, but
like us. Anyway, she's an author. She is married.
Does she have kids?
She has one child who was born last year.
Wow. At least she's having her life. I'm like, it sucks. I mean, she spent 5 years in jail.
Yeah.
In Italy, not even your own country.
No, dude.
Suck.
That's wild. Yeah, so she's living like a normal life. That's good for her, I suppose. Well, interesting. Anyway, well, she's verified on Twitter. Dude, follow Amanda Knox on Twitter. Listen to her podcast. She now advocates for people who are wrongly convicted and women and girls in prison and stuff like that. So, follow her, I guess. Check her out, dude. Check out Amanda Knox on Twitter. I'm follow her. See what she's up.
Are you actually?
Maybe. Just see if her tweets are any good.
See what she's on about. That's so funny to me. Wow.
Yeah, let me look her up on Twitter right now.
What's her latest tweet? I want to know what her latest tweet is. We can end the episode. Okay.
Amanda Knox. Let's see. Her bio says exoneree, writer, co-host with.
Sorry.
She's an exoneree, dude. Exoneree, writer, co-host with @Man_Underbridge of Labyrinth's podcast. Okay, let's see. Her latest tweet. It's just a retweet. Let's see.
Okay, no, an actual tweet that she tweeted.
Okay, 2 days ago she tweeted, "The story of the epic Orlando Bouquet, an unstoppable force and one of my favorite dance partners." And there's a link to a YouTube video. And then she said, "If you are moved by Orlando's story and want to help, you can support him here. Help exoneree with disability secure housing." So she's just tweeting about like people who've been exonerated or whatever, I guess. So good for her. She's doing good work, dude. At least she's
like I said, even if you did murder somebody, at least you're helping people who didn't get out.
Yeah. So, she was like, I was exonerated and I shouldn't have been, so let me help you out.
Let me.
No, I don't think. I
really don't think she did it. I think hey, we're all weird, and you really.
I think she was just in the. I was going to say wrong place at the wrong time, but she wasn't even there.
No, she wasn't there. She's the one who put herself in that position.
Yeah, but even if she didn't, I feel like she would have been convicted.
Even
the Italian police just hated her.
True. They probably just hated her. And sis, you should have walked away. Not that I said, like I said, if they did a proper investigation and didn't let the media get up all in there, I don't think she should have been convicted in the way she was. And if she is a murderer, you did get away with murder. So
either way, congrats on her being free. Yep. So follow Amanda Knox, dude. Hey, she scammed the system if she did murder, but I don't think she did. And even if anyway, whatever. Follow Amanda Knox on Twitter. She's doing good. She's married. She has a kid. She has a podcast. Like us, we're podcast twins. We're so alike.
We should have Amanda Knox on in the
next
episode.
I would.
I'm sure she would say tons of stuff.
I'd be like, I just want to listen.
She would probably refuse to be on our podcast after listening to this
100%.
But it's okay.
If we said we're not gonna talk about anything that happened,
we're gonna say
why you're famous. We just want to talk about what you're doing now, like your podcast and the good charity work you're doing.
We're not gonna talk about what happened.
We're not gonna talk about Meredith.
I think she was
or Foxy Knoxy or anything like that, dude.
It's saying everything in me cannot scream right now.
But literally, I do think it's really, really sleazy and really stupid that half of the reason why she was convicted in the first place was due to her diary and her so-called
promiscuous behavior.
Yeah, promiscuity,
which has nothing to do with anything.
Which shouldn't have anything to do with anything.
Did you plunge the knife into Meredith? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, like it should have nothing to do with anything about that. So I do think that's really stupid, and I'm glad that now she advocates for people who, like women and girls, and just people in general who are have trial by media.
They should all have
issues
nicknames. I wonder if she gives them all nicknames.
What do you mean?
Foxy Noxy. I'm like, nah.
Oh,
Some nicknames.
I don't know, dude. Anyway, don't follow
It's
us.
cracking me
Follow
up.
Amanda. Check out her podcast called Labyrinths or whatever she said, hosted with whoever she added in her bio on Twitter. But anyway,
Give them 5 stars, and when you're done doing that, give us 5 stars.
give us 5
So
stars.
obviously we got
first,
to the
and
bottom
then
of it. Oh, okay. So first us, then her. Okay, no, I support that.
Because you're already here listening, so you might as well just and then hop on over to
That's true.
Knox's. Casey Anthony should start a podcast. I'd listen to it.
I know you would.
No, I wouldn't. She sucks.
In the grocery store.
She
Be
definitely
like,
killed her kid. So screw her. Anyway, on that note, hey Amanda
we don't
Knox,
have to
I
discuss
prefer
that.
you over Casey Anthony.
I'm sure she'll feel really good about that. Imagine if she were to ever listen to this episode.
She can listen to it. I'm ending on a good note, aren't I?
You are. We
Yeah.
are.
Not that
We always do.
Well, whatever. All right, that's enough.
Okay.
Are we done?
Give us. Hey.
Okay.
5 stars.
Yeah,
You-
give us
you
5.
have to-
Yeah, I know, but I was just. Are we done before I do my little
yeah.
outro?
We,
Okay.
we read the tweet. So
We read the tweet, so that's it. All right. Yeah, follow us on Instagram at _change by degrees and give us 5 star on Apple Podcasts. Leave us a review. Be nice about it because if you're not, we're gonna delete it. I don't think we have the power to do
I don't
that.
think you have the
but
power to do that.
I'll,
That's
I'll,
really funny.
I'll contact Apple and tell them get rid of that. Cut it. And that's what we got.
I think it is.
That's it.
Next week, I don't remember what we have,
don't
but
remember.
like I said, they're still planned out because we're doing really good.
No, we planned everything out.
Off
I
the
just don't
cuff.
remember the order.
Our
it's
last
happening.
episode, the only thing I messed up was the title. So
Yeah, she said
fixed
New
by now.
Year
everybody
revolutions.
knows. Everybody knows.
Well, some
Which
people might
honestly,
not.
we should
Instead of New Year resolutions. I texted Millie and I was like, you put New Year
It
revolutions.
just annoy me.
And I was like, that's cool. Like, I'm all for New Year revolutions, but that's not what the podcast, that's not what the episode's about.
I think it is about that.
It wasn't. Well, maybe we'll do one about New Year revolutions in the future. Maybe
Catch us
next year.
next week with that.
2023, coming at you, New Year revolutions. Anyway, all right.
Huh?
I'm done.
Oh, you done? Okay. I
I was
guess
waiting
we'll
for you
see
to say bye.
Oh, bye. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.